Hello and welcome to, I guess, the first day of class, you might consider it. So today's lesson, Chapter 1, I don't even know what subject I'm looking at. Week 1, Chapter 1, we're looking at covering the basic concepts. I guess we'll just jump right into it. So one of the first key terms we're going to cover is ethnic groups. So ethnic groups are groups of people within the larger society that share a unique characteristic or a unique defining trait. These characteristics can be cultural or territorial or just based off of visual appearance. In society, this is either defined or determined by the individual that self-identifies themselves as a particular ethnic group or a member of, or defined by people that surround them. Either you yourself identify or proclaim that, hey, I'm blank, or the people around you go, you look, act, and portray certain characteristics, so we're going to consider you this particular ethnic group. Based off of visual appearance, I mean, that's all it takes for someone to say, well, I've got a tan complexion, I'm living in Montana surrounded by white people, I can tell people I'm Samoan. And that's all it takes. I mean, for, the neighbors to look around the block and go, wow, the new guy, he's brown. Okay, yep, he said he's Samoan, he's Samoan. That's all it takes. All right, so next key term is race. And with race, I'm just going to say this right now. It is a 100% completely fabricated social construct. There is no merit to it. There is no scientific evidence behind it. There is no biological proof or evidence that can determine one person's race from another. It just doesn't exist. Again, this is a societal constructed concept that we apply to ourselves and others. Now, there would be an argument to be made if, say, for example, an Irish guy and a Canadian lady tried to have children and it was physically impossible, like biologically impossible. Then we would argue, okay, well, there is something legitimately on a biological level that people from a certain place cannot breed and interbreed with people from another geographic location because of their race. But as we know, that's not the case. Anyone's able to interbreed, and there is no line to be drawn. It's at any one point we can defy that line by simply having two races mix, and then you make a new one. And then, it's this kind of that round robin pairing type thing. If we took people from all over the world and we, no pun intended, mated them together, eventually by the end of this thing, we would just have such a crazy amalgam that, again, there would be no line to be drawn. There's no defining key characteristics that you could say differentiates one person from another at that point. Racism. It boils down to the definition of the situation, the social context at that time. For example, with the Irish actually having immigrated from Ireland to, the East Coast, Ellis Island, that sort of thing, late 1800s, we saw basically this massive influx of white-skinned people coming into New York and things like that, and basically there was kind of a pecking order. Well, the very bottom of that list was the Irish, and they got all kinds of names like Dogs and Micks and whatever it might have been. And at first, when it was just them, and we could tell the different picking orders between the Italians and the Germans and the Irish, well, the Irish were at the very bottom of that barrel. You did not want to be Irish. Well, it would have been years later that we started seeing, African American, Asian American immigrants coming in, and all of a sudden there was a new ethnic group to essentially hate on, and all of a sudden everyone forgot that Irish were Irish. Now they were just seen as the rest of the whites, and all of a sudden the status of being Irish no longer mattered. You were just lumped in with the rest of white people now that we have a, new common enemy. So all of a sudden these boundaries, these lines, these barriers between Irish, Italian, German, those boundaries quickly faded and everyone got lumped together basically, and no one cared that you were Irish at that point. So again, this comes down to content and context, the definition of the situation given the time in history. So racism, first and foremost, exists. I don't know how anyone can say that it doesn't.
Harrison, Arkansas is the most racist town in the United States.
Have a little pride in your race, brother. White pride, worldwide. I wouldn't say after dark, man.
Honestly, dude, you have balls of steel because you could get hospitalized by some guys that want to beat your ass.
I've had several old men come out here, look out the window and tell me, says, you better go tell that nigger to get out of here and shit.
About 10 minutes, I'm gonna be back. You better be fucking gone.
Okay, come back.
One down the white line. We matter too. You're a white man. Crazy.
You're a dumbass motherfucker. You dumb shit.
You racist motherfucker. Are you a Marxist?
Communist. Domestic terrorist.
Why don't you take it to Chicago or New York and hold it up where they're shooting each other?
Explain to me why Ku Klux Klan.
No, they don't. Do a real fucking job.
I'm Jesus.
Get your ass out of town. That shit don't make shit here.
Hey, all lives matter, not just black. You're a Caucasian.
You're white.
You look like a white guy holding a black lives matter sign. What's the deal with that? I'd be ashamed to be a white boy carrying that stupid sign.
You're white, aren't you? Oh, boy. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
Good. Hey, you said something too?
Yes, sir.
I am good.
Because I'm tired of seeing this right here is the biggest hoax there ever was.
It's just the next thing to ask.
It is.
Yeah, black lives do matter, but what about ours, man?
Apparently black people's lives matter more than us.
Apparently.
You know, the Irish had...
The nigger's gonna kill you too. My guys don't matter with the food.
Fuck black lives. And I have black lives.
For the purpose of our conversation here and kind of the whole origins of this entire book that we're reading and the class you're taking right now, racism in that dimension exists thoroughly. I mean, you're entitled to your opinion, but we still have a major problem here. But again, for all intensive purposes, the definition of racism, according to the book, is the justification for unequal treatment of people based on perceived race. And it is through racism that we justify the dominant group's actions towards other ethnic groups. And that is, humans are divided into different physical types. Such physical traits as people display are intrinsically related to their culture, personality, and intelligence. These differences are not subject to change, and these inherited qualities and characteristics are directly related to their superiority amongst other ethnic groups. In order for racism to exist, contact between different ethnic groups must occur in order for there to be a comparison to even be made in the first place. The ideology of racism emerged most forcefully in the age of colonialism, while white Europeans confronted non-whites in situations of conquest and exploitation. So we can kind of see how and why a lot of this confrontation that is still evident today is mostly hostile and, well, confrontational. As we progress forward and kind of hash out our differences and kind of come together as a country. Typically, interactions between ethnic groups are hostile. They usually take the form of conflict and competition. Again, when most ethnic groups clash, interact with each other, it's usually over resources, whether it be territory, raw natural resources, jobs, or occupation of land, or just the right to live. They tend to be confrontational or competitive. Yum, yum, yum.
Yummy!
We don't have to look much further for evidence of this than, well, with recent events with the BLM movement. Anything in the news or your Facebook feed, or we've definitely seen prime examples of, interracial conflict. As well as from high school history, we've learned about colonialization and just quite frankly the complete genocide of entire races based upon one ethnic group thinking they're superior than another. It doesn't always have to be within conflict. As well as with the BLM movement, we've seen peace and cooperation between ethnic groups where we've been able to come together and fight a common enemy, and that whether that be, discrimination and racism or police brutality.
As the world keeps moving, live these days, dollar bill done drove the whole world crazy while sitting on the porch, letting ganja blaze, and never hesitate a moment to enhance my phrase. Since I need that escape, I'll take my pull. Send me thugs on the corner trying to act all cool, and pretty much out of character. I look right through the transparent exterior. You in my book getting ready, and I'm the narrator. Thought you was peeping me.
It's not even like that. It's not even like that. It's about staying neutral. That's what's important. That's what's important. So I'm gonna put the niggas thinking these motherfuckers not staying, goddamn. What you say? He killed somebody? Did he kill somebody? Nigga, that fucking squad did that shit. I get out my motherfucking family. Yes, I see them as human beings, just like I see everybody on this side as human beings. We're all human. This uniform doesn't make him a robot. Just like your uniform, your skin color doesn't make you a criminal.
There we go. Don't think for a second that he represents who these cops are from all over the county and around this nation. We go out there to help people, not do that nonsense. We want to be with y'all for real. So I took my helmet off and laid the batons down. I want to make this a parade, not a protest. You tell us what you need to do.
Walk with us! 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 Walk with us!
Let's walk! Let's walk!
Sheriff Chris Watson, sorry. Go! Genesee County Sheriff. They're gonna walk with us. They're gonna walk with us. They're gonna walk with us.
Proof right there is that, we can come together and we are making progress and things are looking better. Things are looking good. We're by no means done, but we're getting there.
Yo. Back at you.